Today, I want to talk about chronic illness, which is something that I am still coming to terms with the fact that I have. I was, over the last year or so, I think it's been about a year, I was diagnosed with POTS, orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's still hard to say. And the basic way to describe POTS, for those who do not know, is that it is your nervous system doesn't send the signals it is supposed to. So normally, our body fights gravity on its own completely without us having to do anything. It will make sure that when we move from standing to sitting and the gravity and the pressure on our body shift, that our blood does not pool and that our blood actually continues to move through our body. There's still a portion of our blood that will always be affected by gravity because gravity is strong, but with POTS, the nervous system doesn't send the signals to adjust your blood flow. And so that leads to a lot of people with POTS who stand up and get dizzy, who get faint when they go from sitting to standing or standing to sitting, who some even pass out when they do. And there's a lot of other symptoms, but that is like the main symptom. And the biggest thing that I've learned is that trying to remind myself that I do not have to pass out to be considered having POTS. I took the tilt table test and I was diagnosed with POTS because there were abnormalities, I think is the word I'm looking for. There were abnormalities in my test that showed that my nervous system was not reacting and my blood pressure was spiking whenever I shifted positions. And I thought for the first few months, or most of, honestly, until like a couple weeks ago, I thought that this was really brought on by COVID. I got COVID, 3 or 4 years ago? It was the year my grandpa died, which is still wild to think about, but I got COVID around the time my grandpa passed. So it's been a few years, but after that, during COVID, I couldn't move. I was in that much like pain and I was so unconscious I could barely breathe. No, I did not go to the hospital. I know I probably should have. I don't think I had health insurance at that point, so like I wasn't dealing with that at that point. But like the week long having COVID and not being able to function was hard. And then following that, my asthma got worse. And then a lot of other stuff started getting worse. And what would normally be me standing up and getting a little lightheaded, seeing black spots, started to transition into me standing up and my vision going completely dark and me having to get on the floor before I passed out. And that is what I thought COVID was, or what COVID brought on rather, is the POTS. What I've learned is that I have always had this, cuz my family loved to tell me growing up that when I stood up too fast and I would get dizzy, they're like, "Oh, you just stood up too fast." Even though sometimes I would do it slowly and I would still get dizzy. My family, nobody knew what POTS was. Nobody knew this was a thing that could happen to you. So none of them knew how to treat me. And so I thought it was normal. I also did not know and did not realize that the same thing happens when you lay down. And it really clicked with me, 2 weekends ago? I was 2 weekends ago, I broke one of my new rules. One of my rules since getting POTS diagnosed is that I do not have caffeine after 3 p.m. That is one of my new rules. But I was going to the movie theater to see MJ, and I got a Pepsi there because I was like, I'm at the movie theater, I might as well get a soda. I should have gotten a Sprite instead, but I opted to get a Pepsi. And so my heart rate was up, and I could feel that my heart rate was up. And when I went to lay down that night, I got super anxious and my heart started chugging. And then I ended up having to get up and throw up because that is a thing that has happened to me almost my entire life. I will be perfectly fine, but then I will go to bed, and after a minute of laying down, I feel super anxious, I get very clammy, my heart skyrockets, and then I end up throwing up because of all the anxiety responses in my system. That's POTS. That has been POTS this entire time. It is when my body changes position that my heart rate goes up. And it was made worse because I was in constant fight or flight for most of my childhood, especially my teenage years. I was not in a safe home environment. So my body already being high cortisol, high heart rate, on top of the POTS high heart rate, made everything so much worse. And I honestly feel so much more validated having realized that I've had this forever. I'm frustrated that I now realize it because there's so much I could have done when I was younger to work with this. Hell, I I I haven't used my inhaler in ages since starting the medication for POTS. I think the asthma was also a symptom of my POTS because that has not gone away, but it is years and light years better than before I started my medication. So it's frustrating realizing there was a solution and an answer this entire time, but I'm happy I'm figuring it out now. It sucks that it took getting COVID to worsen all my symptoms and make it worse to the point where it was unbearable, but it did help me get my diagnoses. And so with POTS, there's really no cure for it. POTS is a lifelong condition. It can get easier with medication. You'll still have flare-ups, and you just kind of have to learn to work with it. And I think that has to be the hardest part about chronic illness, is learning how to work with your chronic illness. And I saw a TikTok about it recently, about how once you get your chronic illness, once you realize you have it, the hard part is reminding yourself that your old normal may not be your new normal. You can build up to a new normal, but it still might not look the same as what you used to be able to do. And that's one thing that I've been really struggling with because I haven't posted videos because I've been in the middle of flare-ups. I've been busy. I'm driving now. So I have to drive myself to a bunch of my own appointments and everything, and being in the car, and I get super warm when I'm in the car, even with the AC on, and then which causes me to sweat more, which causes me to lose electrolytes, which then causes the POTS to flare up again. And so I have to learn how to work around all of these things. My number one thing I've been implementing is homemade electrolyte drinks, which have been a game changer, honest to God. I basically make an electrolyte Snapple half and half at home because I also make sweet tea. Sweet tea is one of my favorite drinks. And so I mix like half of an electrolyte drink with sweet tea, and it genuinely tastes like Snapple half and half, and it hydrates me. So I'm like, hell yeah, it tastes good and I feel great afterwards. But implementing that drink has made such a change because I now, like the sweating thing. Fun fact, I didn't used to have a sweating issue until I started my blood pressure medication. Because a symptom of some blood pressure medications, specifically the one I'm taking, is that your body doesn't always regulate heat well because the blood is not getting to the skin as easily. There's something about the beta blockers that does not allow blood flow to get to the skin as well as it used to. So I run hotter now. I run hotter, and well, I guess I guess that actually makes the opposite sense. The blood flows more easily, so it gets to the skin, and because of that, because the blood is flowing and everything, my body isn't used to it, and it doesn't know how to cool down. So instead of like going through and normally cooling me like it's supposed to, I just start sweating like crazy, and I hate it, and it's gross, and it's the hardest part to get used to, but like the alternative is having more symptoms. So like I like with the blood pressure medication, I'm at a point where I don't have flare-ups very often anymore, and honest to God, I don't feel my heartbeat anymore, which I didn't realize wasn't a normal thing until I started my blood pressure meds. So it's like, weighing the pros and cons of it, I would much rather deal with sweating and low heart rate than high heart rate and no sweating. So like, and like having to then, now knowing that I sweat more, learn that that is how we lose our electrolytes. That is how we lose, like when we sweat, it is mostly electrolytes we are losing. So that is why I started adding the electrolyte drinks. I make sure to drink one before I do anything strenuous and make sure to drink one after I do anything strenuous as well. And that has helped immensely. I have more energy. We went out to the aquarium this past weekend for one of my best friend's birthdays, and I made sure to pack my electrolyte drinks. And the only part of the aquarium that kicked my ass was the stairs to the parking garage because all but one elevator was broken and we had to park on the top floor of 5 stairs. That killed me. But other than that, other than the stairs, I felt great the entire time. I was walking, I was going around doing things, and I didn't feel drained. And then when we got back to the car afterwards, I made sure to drink my second electrolyte drink. And I was still awake and like ready to go at 8 p.m. and do more things when we got home. Like I still had energy at the end of the day. And that's what I mean about working with your chronic illness. Once you know your chronic illness, whether diagnosed or not, because trust me, you know your body better than a doctor does. And if you have a feeling that something is wrong, keep pushing your doctors for it. I know they get annoyed, but do not give up on yourself. And if the doctors won't do anything, then do your own research on it. Because I switched off of caffeine before I even got POTS. Or before I even got the diagnosis for it, I should say. I read somewhere that when I was doing research about it, when it came across my TikTok, and I was like, oh, this is scarily familiar. This is weird. I don't like that all of this is making sense now. I read that caffeine is part of what causes the issue. So I switched to decaf sweet tea and decaf coffee, as well as decaf chai tea, because I drink a lot of chai. Chai is one of my favorite teas. And so after switching to no caffeine after 3, the only caffeine I have is like a can of Pepsi a day. I've been sleeping better. My whole mentality has shifted, removing almost all caffeine from my diet. Like it is wild how much that changed before I even got the diagnoses. Like that fixed so much that I was having issues with. And then I got the diagnosis and I felt more emboldened to actually do more research on my own because most of my doctors admit they don't know much about POTS. They're still learning. They're still researching about it. So sometimes doing your own research on your chronic illness is really good because it helps show people that people want to know about these illnesses. And once you do the research, you can learn what helps and test different things because everyone's chronic illness is different. Not everyone with POTS is going to benefit from electrolyte drinks. Not everyone with POTS is going to benefit from cutting off caffeine. That's what works for me. And it is something that you, if you have POTS, can test as well and give it a trial run to see if it changes anything. Because that's kind of what a lot of figuring out your chronic illness is. It's a lot of trial and error, testing different things, seeing if it makes a difference, and then adjusting accordingly. And that's what I was trying to get to, is that's what I mean by working with your chronic illness. Once you know it and you can understand it and you learn about it, then you can learn and test which ways work with it. Because I don't want to stop doing things I love because of my POTS. I don't want to stop being able to go out and go to gardens, go out and hike, go out to events and stuff just because standing and walking is hard on my body. I want to be able to work with it. And obviously there are some chronic illnesses where that is not as easily done as it is said. And that is fair and that is also valid. But some chronic illnesses can be worked with. There are mobility aids, there are, just any disability aid. Like, reminding yourself that you are allowed disability aids when you have a chronic illness is also very, very important. Like, reminding myself that I can sit when I'm doing things in the kitchen, or that I can sit when I take a shower, because that is also one of the places where a lot of people get POTS flare-ups, because especially if you take hot showers, the steam and the heat really just it makes you lightheaded, your blood gets all kinds of wonky, and I have almost passed out in the shower before, and it is not fun. So reminding yourself that you can sit when doing a lot of things, that you are allowed to buy a cane or a walker. There are things that you can do, and sure, some people may look at you funny, some people may judge you, but they are not living in your body. And you need to learn to, love yourself enough to give yourself a break. Honestly, is the way I've been kind of working it in my mind for me. Because I love myself more than I have my entire life now. And I want to still be able to do the things I do and take care of myself in a way that works for my body. It's different than what I thought it would be because now I have an understanding of the way my body functions and what it can and can't do. And so I have to adjust for that now. Like I said at the beginning, it's a new normal. It's not my old normal, it's a new normal. It's still normal, but it's normal now for me with a disability and a chronic illness. And I think using the term chronic illness is the part that really is sticking with me because I wouldn't let myself use that for the longest time for any of my stuff. My anxiety disorder, my ADHD. ADHD is not really an illness, but like I wouldn't let myself use disabled or anything, not even for my autism. I have not let myself use any word other than just, yeah, it's a thing that I have. So I'm trying to be better about using the terms disabled and chronically ill because I am. I'm a little mentally handicapped and definitely chronically ill. Very, very chronically ill. And I just have to learn to work with it. And the last thing that I really want to touch on with this as a start to me talking more about chronic illness is that flare-ups are going to happen, and that is okay. And especially for all my uterus-owning people out there, when your period comes around, you're going to get flare-ups in your symptoms. Your medications aren't going to work as well. They don't do research and drug tests on female rats. They might be now, but for the most part, they haven't been. And because of that, there's a lot of stuff that gets a little kind of wonky when you're on your period. Be it your depression, your anxiety, your chronic illness, your disability, like all of it is worse when you are on your period. And it's hard because that happens once every month, 12 to 13, 14 times a year, depending on your cycles. And so reminding yourself during those times especially that it's okay, it's just a flare-up, it will pass, is very, very important. Because you can get into some really bad headspaces when you are on your period. And you just have to remind yourself that it's okay, and that once you get to the other side of that week or those 5 days, you'll start to feel better. It may take you a little bit to recover from it because flare-ups always take a couple of recovery days. There is no shame in that either. But you will get to the other side and you will feel different once you're through that week. And just flare-ups in general for everyone, like, they are just a part of being chronically ill. They are a part of being disabled. Flare-ups are inevitable, but you can minimize how often they happen by working with your symptoms. You can't necessarily predict them all the time. Sometimes they do just come out of nowhere. Sometimes there is no rhyme or reason for a flare-up. But once they are there, take care of yourself. Give yourself the space and care to rest and recover from it. And do not push yourself during a flare-up. That is the worst thing that you can do for your chronic illness. And I know it's hard living in the capitalist society we do that pushes for work and for productivity, but you really do come first. So please make sure to take care of yourselves. I am trying my best to do that as well. That's why I wasn't posting. I was busy running around doing things. It was causing flare-ups. It was causing fucking just stress in general. So that's why I'm finally recording now. And I've got another long week ahead of me. So fingers crossed it's not too bad, but I will be taking all the measures that I talked about in this video every time I go out to better look after myself and take care of myself. And I learned the hard way not to break my 3 p.m. caffeine cutoff rule. That sucked. I have not had a POTS episode like that in probably close to a year. So having an episode like that was wild. And I was really beating myself up about it. But then I got back to this mindset of flare-ups happen. I could have predicted this one, but I didn't take the right steps. And now I know, and I'm learning how to better take the steps to prevent flare-ups like that from happening. So yeah, it is okay to be chronically ill. There is nothing wrong with it, and you can still learn to function and be yourself while chronically ill. It is just another part of you. And that is something I'm going to very hugely advocate on this platform going forward. having POTS and having an anxiety disorder and the autism, the ADHD, I want to advocate for mental health and chronic illness. That is what I'm going to start using this platform to promote. As somebody who is posting online, it is my job to talk about this stuff and to show you guys what it really looks like to have a chronic illness and be a creative person. So that is my goal for future videos and content going forward. I hope that this is eye-opening for some of you. I hope this is comforting for others. And overall, I just hope those who also have a chronic illness or those who have POTS like me don't feel alone. Because we are out there. There's more of us than you think. Like, there are a lot more people with POTS out there now than you would imagine. And a lot of them aren't diagnosed, but with us advocating and talking about it more, we can get the diagnosis to be more normalized and then get more research done on it. And maybe we'll have better medication for POTS other than just blood pressure meds, because that is all we really got to work with right now are beta blockers. But they're helping nonetheless, and that's okay. Thank you guys, though, for sitting through this video and watching all of this. I will definitely be back with more talk about this soon, but for now, that does it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to stay up to date on content like this and know when I am posting, and let everybody else know. Share this with people you think will benefit from hearing this. I hope to be some sort of an educator for this, even if I'm not schooled in it. This is just my life and how I'm handling it with chronic illness, and you'll hear lots more stories from me going forward.